Hi everyone, I hope you guys are doing well. In this video, we will explore the user authentication flow with Amazon Cognito User Pool. We will be utilizing Hosted UI along with PKCE, where PKCE is a security mechanism implemented during the login process. Before touching any code or AWS console, let's quickly look at a simple diagram so the flow makes sense. Looking into this diagram, we can see we have three major components: Cognito, React, and Node. Let's start with the Cognito. So what is a Cognito? Cognito is an AWS service that helps in authentication and authorization. In Cognito, we will be creating user pool. So what is a user pool? User pool can be simply thought of as a managed user database. So once we create a user pool, we will be provided with a hosted UI. With hosted UI, we will be able to log in and sign up easily. Cognito helps us with validating user and also helps in issuing authorization code and token. So moving on to the React app, since we will be using a PKCE mechanism or standard, we need a code verifier and code challenge. So code verifier is a random string, whereas code challenge is a hash of code verifier. So please remember, code challenge is a hash of code verifier. Now suppose a user wants to sign up. So we will be redirecting to the Cognito Hosted UI for sign up. While calling the sign up or login, we will also be sending the code challenge that was generated in React app. Please remember that the code challenge will be temporarily stored in Cognito for later use. Once the login successfully happens or the sign up happens, the Cognito will redirect back to our app with authorization code. Please remember that the authorization code is not same as token, so they are different things. What we eventually want is token, but right now we have authorization code, and this authorization code is sent back to the app in the URL as a query string. So now once the React app has this authorization code, it makes a post request to the Node.js with authorization code from Cognito and code verifier from React. Now the interesting thing happens in Node.js part. In Node.js part, we actually make a call to the Cognito endpoint for the token. So Node.js sends authorization code and code verifier to the Cognito endpoint and gets back a token. Why would we send a code verifier to the Cognito? Since we know that the authorization code from the Cognito is sent to us in a URL. What if the authorization code gets compromised or the bad actor gets access to it? So once we have this code verifier that was specifically generated by the app and is known to the app only, what happens is the bad actor won't be able to get this token because they won't have access to this code verifier. Even if they try some random code verifier, Cognito would hash and check for the code challenge which initially initiated the sign up process. So authorization code plus code verifier makes our flow very secure. For now, I think it's all for the diagram that I want to explain. So now let's move on to the hands-on. So now we are in the AWS console. Let's open up Cognito. So we are already in a user pool. So in order to create a new user pool, let's click the create user pool button. So in this definer application, we have four types of applications. So we will be selecting SPA since we are using React. So for the options for sign in identifier, since we want user to be able to log in with either email or username, so we will be selecting these two options. And for the require attribute for sign up, let me select email. So you have other options to select. So if you select name, for example, during the sign up form, you will be asked for the name too. For now, to keep it simple, let's just put email. So here we have a return URL. So this is an important part. This is the URL that the Cognito will redirect to after the successful login or sign up. Since we are using a local setup for React, so let me put localhost for it, localhost 3000. So now let's create this by clicking on create user directory. So once it gets created, let's go back to the Amazon Cognito and again to the user pool. We can see this is the recently created one. So let's click it. So here we can see the general overview, but we want to get into the app client section. So on the left hand side, you can click app clients under application. So after clicking app client, we can see that this app client has been created for us. So let's click it. So now we have this app client information. Please remember that we will be using this app client ID for in both backend and frontend. In this section, let's open the login page tab. So once we click on the login page, we can see that the allowed callback URL is set correctly. Since we also want to set up a signed out URL, since we have a sign out function in our front end, so let's set it by clicking edit. So let's copy this and paste it in the sign out URL, since we want Cognito to redirect to this URL once we successfully log out. In the identity provider, since we are using the Cognito user pool, we don't have to change anything. In the OAuth 2.0 grant type, authorization code grant is okay because we are using authorization code flow. We will be selecting it. In the OID connect scope, we will be using email OpenID. Since we are not using phone, so we will remove this option. Instead, we will be adding profile here. So in custom scope, we do nothing, so we just click on save changes. So we can see that our app client has been updated successfully. So now let's move on to our front end and back end part. So all the code for the front end and back end will be provided to you. So this is the repo where you will have React and Node code with some basic setup. So let me move to the code in my VS Code. Right now you can see we have two apps being opened. So this app.js is from the Cognito React app, so from the front end, and for index.js it's from the backend. So we need to configure it. We need to configure client ID and the Cognito domain, which will be provided to us from this Cognito client. So let me copy this client ID and paste it in app.js and in index.js. So for the Cognito domain, we want to find it from this left hand panel. So under branding, we have domain. So once we click on domain, we see this domain link on the right hand side. So let's copy it and paste it on both, and let me save. So now since we have configured it, client ID and Cognito for both, so let me start our front end and back end. So let me restart by doing npm start, and for backend part I want this. So we can see that both front end and back end is running successfully. So let us test our Cognito user pool. So let me open. You can see that we have login with Cognito button. So let me click and show you what happens once we click it. So you can see that we have been redirected from our React app to the hosted UI. Since we don't have an account here, so I will be clicking on create an account part. Let me click create an account. So now you can see that we have this sign up form. So let me quickly fill this up and click sign up. So I can see that I have to verify my email through verification code. I am checking my emails. Let me enter my verification code. Let me click confirm account. Something is wrong, so let me click resend code and again wait to see. So I'm waiting for the new verification code. So let me try new verification code. Okay, I have received a new verification code, so let me enter it. So let me confirm my account. So we can see that we have successfully logged in. We can see the basic flow of how we connected our front end to the Cognito and also to the backend. So now let me dissect deeper. So let me log out for now, and let's just see from the beginning how this works. So once we click login with Cognito, let's see what URL is being hit. So we can see this URL. So let me dissect it for you. I have a new text file here. So you can see that. Let me dissect it from the query string part. This is the normal Cognito hosted URL since we are in the login page. So we have this path as /login. So let me dissect this for you quickly. So I hope you haven't forgotten that we have this code challenge. Let me remind you from this diagram. What we generated was code verifier and code challenge. And in this flow, we have shown that how code challenge was sent in both login and sign up as a query string parameter. So you can see that clearly here. So this is the code challenge, and this code challenge method, this is S256, which is a short 256. So this is an hashing algorithm. We are sending the hashed value with the hashing algorithm. We also have this scope, OpenID, email, and profile that should match with this part. So OpenID connect scope, email, OpenID, and profile. So those are the scopes. So we are sending that to. So redirect URI, of course, is going to be HTTP localhost 300. So we are sending that to, and client ID is the one from here, client ID, and response type is code. Since we are using an authorization, we want an authorization code out of this URL after a successful login or sign up. So we are setting this response type to code. So I think this helps you understand how this URL is formed and shows how code challenge scopes are being sent. Let me now log in to show the other part of our login process. Let me clear this and click continue. Please pay attention to the URL. So let me click continue. Okay, so something is wrong, incorrect username, or okay, let me try. Okay, again. So now you see that we are being redirected. Why are we being redirected to localhost 3000? Because we said after successful login or sign up, we want this URL where we should be redirected by the Cognito. So this part is login localhost 3000, and as I have told you that we will get authorization code from the Cognito after successful login or sign up. Since we successfully logged in, we are given a code. So this code is exactly the authorization code. This code has been provided by Cognito to us. In this flow again, what are we going to do? So we are calling this exchange API with authorization code and code verifier. So let's see on the network part, we can see that headers, we are calling this exchange API, but the most important thing is what payload are we sending. So here we can see that the same code that was sent to us by the Cognito and the code verifier. We were using authorization code and code verifier. We are sending those two things. So let me check the payload, and you can see once we send this from the backend, we get a JSON with output from the Cognito endpoint. So I think this helps you to understand the overall flow used for our Cognito user pool demo. You can just try out yourself and see and understand more of it. I think that will be it for now. Thank you.